Thank you, Brother Kashif. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and greetings, my sisters and brothers. What a wonderful Friday afternoon for all of us to be here. Today we mark a day in history where the Muslim community has come together to unite on one of the most important races in our city and in our state, and in fact, in our country. Because if it happens in New York, it happens everywhere. I want to first start by acknowledging my beloved brothers, Brother Hassan. I don't know where he is. He's always hiding.
He's outside, making sure everybody's coming in.
Okay. Always hiding in the background. I want to acknowledge my brother Bahi. Where's Bahi? Behind me. Okay. And of course, Kashif and all the unsung soldiers and heroes behind these three brothers who have, for the last 4 years, through thick and thin, stood with Eric Adams. They stood with Eric when it was not the most popular time, and I commend them because they saw the big picture. The big picture is we need to have engagement with our next mayor for the next 8 years. It's either engagement or it is famine. Which would you prefer? Engagement. And why is it important for us to be engaged? Because if we're not at the table, as my dear brother Keith Ellison once said, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. But when you're at the table, you are a part of the decision making, you are a part of sharing the narrative, you are a part of making sure that the issues and concerns of your community are heard, and you are advocating for your community. So that is why these brothers and myself and others have chosen that engagement is critical. And it's not just because of this, analogy, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, but it is our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam who said engagement with all people is critical, whether you agree with them, you disagree with them, no matter what their politics are, no matter what differences you have, engagement is key and critical for us as Muslims. And that is how we as Muslims must make sure that we are conducting ourselves. MashaAllah, the man of the hour is here. Please give him a round of applause. Our next mayor, Eric Adams. So as I was saying, engagement is critical because engagement is how you get things done. So I'm really honored and privileged to be here with all of you to show a united Muslim community, making sure to have a voice and a place at the table, and making sure that we are exercising our political muscle as American Muslims. I need not remind you that 22% of U.S. Muslims live where? In New York City. 1 million Muslims strong. 350,000 are actually registered voters right here in New York City based on data from Engage, Action, and PAC that we have done. We need to make sure that we are organizing and mobilizing our communities and making sure that they come out. Now, we're here for one candidate, and that candidate is my beloved brother, Eric Adams. And Bahi didn't want to talk about Eric. It's okay. You left that job for me. Where is he? Where'd he go? Okay. Because I think if there is anybody probably in this room, maybe Eric, you can validate that. I think we've known each other for 20 years. Is there anybody else who's known Eric for that long? Raise your hand.
Right here.
Okay, So finally he came out. I was wondering where he was. Hassan, I actually acknowledged you earlier, so mashallah, thank you for your hard work. So I'll tell you when I first met Eric. I met Eric right after September 11th. Shortly after, as you all know, the backlash and discrimination that happened, my family has a long line of police officers that serve in the NYPD proudly. The backlash and discrimination that they faced was awful, as many of us did. But there was one person who rose to the occasion to say, no, this is not going to happen, and that is Eric Adams. He identified the Muslim officers, met with them, and said, you know what, you need to create an organization. And he helped them create an organization replicating 100 Men in Black, which is an organization that Eric started when he was a police officer to defend the rights of Black Americans in law enforcement. He saw his brothers and sisters who are Muslim experiencing the same type of discrimination and bias. And with his help, they started the American Muslim Law Enforcement Organization, which is now today called the Muslim Officer Society. How many of you know MOS? Everybody should know that. They are close to 2,000 Muslim proud. It took one person to give them the courage to organize themselves and create an organization, and that is Eric Adams. Over the years, we continued our relationship, and the next time that Eric took a strong stand was when I was targeted by the New York Post when I started the Khalil Gibran International Academy. Eric was one of the very first people who reached out and said to me, sister, what can I do? How can I help? That refused to allow Islamophobia to dictate how Muslims are treated in New York City. Then another moment that was critical and important was when the Muslim ban was passed. The Yemeni community was one of the countries that was on the Muslim ban, and the Yemeni community called me that very night saying, what are we going to do? What's going to happen to us? We met and we came to the conclusion we needed to organize a rally. We searched for all of the big areas, Washington Square Park, Union Square, Foley Square, everything was booked except one place, the home of the Yemeni American community, Borough Hall. And I called up Eric and I said to Eric, Eric, I need your help. My community wants to come out and protest the Muslim ban. We can't find anywhere. The only place available is Brooklyn Borough Hall. Eric gave me the keys of Brooklyn Borough Hall and said, sister, do what you have to do. This moment is a defining moment for all of us, and we want to make sure to center the Yemeni community that is impacted here in New York City. Within 4 days, with the help of his staff, we organized a rally of 6,000 Yemeni Americans. We shut down 1,000 stores. That very day when I went to Borough Hall, after getting a call from his staff saying there are people here already at 12:30. Meanwhile, we were supposed to start at 4:30. And I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? People were so excited. His staff went out and engaged them and told them, you gotta hang on, this is gonna happen later. When I got to Borough Hall, Eric said one thing to me, and I will never forget it. He said, Debbie, we have the best possible issue that can ever arise. And I'm like, what is this issue? He's like, you underestimated. You thought you were gonna have 2,000 people? You have probably 5,000 people out there. And you should be very proud. And I was nervous thinking that he was gonna be upset because his staff told me he wanted to speak to me in his office, and I was like, oh God, what is he gonna say? Did we over outreach to people, and now we have all these people? But he said one thing to me, and he said, Debbie, today is your day and your moment for your community. Whatever you need, I'm not going to allow the NYPD to do anything that you don't want them to do. You are the one that is responsible and know your people to know how to talk to them. Eric deputized me in that very moment, not only to be an organizer, but to also for the security of 6,000 people. And believe me, my knees were shaking. But I was at that moment so honored by this gesture. And this gesture meant a lot to me and my community, given that we all know that we've been targets of the NYPD Muslim surveillance. Eric knew the trauma that our community experienced, and he wanted to make sure that there was no trauma that day. That day went smoothly, and within weeks after the event, Eric was the first person to say, Debbie, you guys need to start an organization. And with his encouragement, the Yemeni American Merchants Association was created. Yama today stands 4 years old. Eric is one of its founders because of his encouragement and always being there for our community. Through thick and thin. Just last week, we had a stabbing in Harlem. And I text Eric saying, hey Eric, we just had a fatality. Just want to let you know, if you want to come, we'd love to have you. Eric rearranged his whole schedule that day to stand with our community. You know how busy this time is for him, but he's putting people first. And that is why I am standing here with all of you sitting to support Eric and make sure that the next 3 days are not just about us sitting here and hearing people talk, but going back home to our communities and making sure that every person that we know goes out to vote. Early voting is still happening through Sunday. Then we have that little, day off. But November 2nd, everyone must make sure to go out and vote. Tell your parents, your family, your neighbors, your congregation, everyone must go out and vote. And I don't need to tell you who you should be voting for because you're at this event because of our brother, Eric Adams. So thank you all so much. I want to just end by looking at Eric and talking